Hello everyone, I'm Reefer here, bringing you a quick little video talking about some of the kit that you should grab that people don't really talk about. I'm not going to do like a top 3 list or anything like that, purely because I can't really be bothered to edit that. But you'll have to ignore the dog at my feet. It's purely things that sort of I use that make life a lot easier that we don't really sort of talk about in lots of videos. So we're going to go underneath the tank for this. Let's look as I keep it pretty much all in the sump area. Now, first thing is toothbrush. Obviously, toothbrushes are really handy for cleaning out all your pumps, your wave makers, things like that. And even I've used it to scrape some of the algae off the back wall. Just really handy. It's literally just an old toothbrush that had sort of been destroyed by me using it, and I just rinsed it off well under the tap, and I use it for cleaning stuff in the tank, particularly things like wave makers, which you could probably do with a clean actually. The next thing is pegs, clothes pegs. Now, not just to hold, just standard. Drop. Not just to hold my toothbrush up, but for when you are acclimating fish and corals. The way I like to acclimate is actually to run drip tube down from the top of the tank and then have the bag sat in my sump. Reason being is when I've tried to drip acclimate into a separate bucket, even though you're dripping in water from your nice warm tank, you actually quite often find that the temperature in the bucket will drop. So I like to open the bag up, use a peg to attach it to the side of the sump, again ignore the dog, put it in the sump, clip it on so it stays the right temperature, and then I can drip the water in. So nice little handy thing to do. You can usually nick them from the missus. Next couple of bits are a towel. Nobody ever really discusses having a towel. I find it's a really good idea just to have one hanging on a hook next to your tank or in your sump area, just because you're bound to walk by the tank, see something not right and adjust it, so you're going to get your hands wet. Similarly, a pair of tweezers or something if your tank is quite deep. I mean, mine's not particularly deep, my older tank was. This is a 2-foot tank top to bottom. But still, sometimes it's awkward to get your hand into a space to pick something up, and you don't want to get your sleeves wet, so it's good to have a set of tweezers. Now, I think the last couple of bits are a jug. Now, obviously, it's not thought of quite the same in tropical tanks. Tropical tanks, you quite often have jugs for doing water changes, things like that. Reef keepers tend to spend a bit more money and have auto changes and things like that. I always like to keep a little jug handy, mostly for emptying my skimmer, because then I can just empty it straight into that and chuck it in the sink, and I'm not walking backwards and forwards, and I don't have to take the lid off the skimmer. Another thing is things like shot glasses or a specimen pot. I actually had a bit of coral that I mail ordered turn up in that. Hope the guy washed it first. But I find this really handy for dissolving my frozen food, because take a little bit of water out the sump, chuck it in there, shake it up, and then I can pour it into the top, because I run a DD feed hole, which I did there deliberately so that when I go up to the tank I can get my fish to come up to the corner where everybody can see them. And then the last thing that nobody ever mentions really when talking about tanks is some sort of steps, or like a fold out step. That's really handy. I bought this when I did this tank because the previous tank came up to the same sort of height, actually came up a bit higher than this one, but it was like a 3.5 foot tall tank, so it was really tall, so it was a pain to get to the bottom of it. But even though this one, I mean, I can get my arm easily up over this one. It's about sort of shoulder height, this tank for me. It's quite good just to have a set of steps to just stand on, because then you can look down on your tank, have a look down the back of the rock work and grab those bits that are just a little bit out of reach. And the last thing you want is to be unstable, standing, wobbling on a chair or something like that, and fall over and or break anything in your tank, drop some rock work. So if anything out of this video, recommend getting yourself a set of steps. They're also quite handy to rest your beer on in the evening. So hopefully that gave some people some food for thought. Thanks again, and yeah, like and subscribe.